I never imagined the night meant to honor the end of my 40-year career would be the night my marriage and my family publicly ended. But that's exactly what happened. My name is Jonathan Hale, 62 years old, recently retired Regional Operations Director for a defense logistics company. I've survived downsizing, recessions, military contracts, 5 CEOs, and 2 heart attacks. But nothing prepared me for what my wife, Claire, and my 2 adult children did to me that night. It happened in the banquet hall of the Monroe Country Club. Warm lights, soft jazz, clinking glasses, champagne towers, the works. My colleagues gave speeches about loyalty, dedication, integrity, and how I had mentored half the people in that room. I was standing on the stage, smiling like a fool, holding the gold retirement plaque they'd given me. Then Claire walked up. She was wearing a champagne-colored dress, elegant, poised, a little too glamorous for the event. My kids, Ethan and Madison, stood behind her with expressions I'd never seen before, something between excitement and cruelty. Claire took the microphone from my hand with a practiced smile. "Everyone, thank you for coming to celebrate my husband," she said sweetly. I thought it was a surprise anniversary speech or something, heartfelt. I was wrong. She held out a thick envelope. "Jonathan Hale, you've been served." The room went dead silent. I didn't understand. I laughed nervously. Then Ethan clapped. Madison joined him. Claire followed. My children, my own blood, were applauding as their mother handed me divorce papers at my retirement party. My retirement party, the one I had worked 40 years to reach. The applause grew. Some guests stared in shock, others whispered. I felt like my heart had cracked open and spilled onto the carpet. Claire leaned in close, so only I could hear her. "You're finally done working," she whispered. "Now I'm done with you." I stepped back. "Claire, what are you doing?" she said. "Correcting a mistake. I spent my entire life waiting for you to slow down. You never did. Now I'm choosing myself." Ethan, my son, smirked. "It's for the best, Dad. You're going to be happier alone. Besides, Mom deserves half. You owe her that." Owe her? After everything I sacrificed for them? The nights I missed, the weekends gone, the stress that kept me alive for them? Madison's voice was sharp. "You're not going to make this difficult, are you? We've already talked to a lawyer." We? They had planned this. Together. Behind my back. My daughter crossed her arms. "Don't make us look bad tonight. Just sign and get it over with." My blood went cold. Claire, my wife of 35 years, smiled like she had already won. "You'll be staying at a hotel tonight. The house is mine per the preliminary filing. Everything is already arranged." Then she turned to the guests and raised the envelope. "To new beginnings." Some people clapped along in awkward confusion. I left the stage. I didn't remember walking out of the country club. I didn't remember driving to the hotel. I barely remembered breathing. All I felt was a bone-deep betrayal by the woman I had loved since I was 25 and by the 2 children I had raised, loved, and given everything to. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Don't be dramatic, Dad. This was coming. You worked too much. Mom deserves better. Don't make this difficult." Another from Madison. "You'll be fine. Just sign everything. We want to support Mom through this." Support her? As if she were the victim? As if ambushing me at my retirement party wasn't planned psychological warfare? I stared at my reflection in the hotel mirror. White hair, tired eyes, a suit that didn't feel like mine anymore. But beneath the shock, something inside me hardened. They wanted a divorce? Fine. They wanted half? They weren't getting a dime more than the law forced. And as for my children, they made a choice that night. A choice with consequences. But I wasn't thinking revenge. Not yet. At that moment, I just wanted to understand why. I met Claire at the cafe she suggested. She was glowing. Actually glowing. People glow when they're in love. I recognized that expression, the one she used to give me 30 years ago. And then he walked in. A tall man with silver hair, designer watch, and a smug confidence that made my stomach twist. He kissed Claire, on the lips, then sat down beside her. Claire smiled. "Jonathan, this is Victor Stanton." I stared. Your lawyer?" She shook her head slowly, savoring the moment. "My fiancé." I felt the world tilt. "Your what?" I whispered. Victor extended a hand to shake. I didn't take it. Claire said, "We've been together for 2 years. We didn't tell the kids until 6 months ago." 2 years. 2 years of lies. 2 years of pretending. 2 years of planning behind my back. Victor leaned back confidently. "And now that you've retired, Jonathan, Claire no longer needs to stay in a dead marriage." Claire folded her hands. "You were always married to your job. Victor values me." I clenched my jaw. "So you humiliated me in front of everyone?" She shrugged. "It was poetic." Victor added, "It also gives us leverage in court. Judges sympathize with emotionally abused spouses." Emotionally abused? Me? I stood. "This isn't over." Victor smirked. "Oh, Jonathan, it already is." I went to see Ethan that afternoon. He lived in an upscale condo Claire and I helped him buy. The door was open. He was inside with Madison and Victor. All three turned toward me like they had been waiting. Ethan sighed. "Dad, please stop making this messy." Madison crossed her arms. "Mom already told us everything. You were cold, distant, controlling." Controlling? I had worked 60-hour weeks to pay for their tuition, their cars, their weddings. Victor stood confidently behind them, like some puppet master. "He's here to intimidate you," Victor said smoothly. "This is why Claire left." Madison nodded. "We're sticking with Mom through this. She deserves happiness." Ethan added, "And we're already meeting with a financial advisor. You'll be splitting everything evenly." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. "You expect me to just hand over everything I built?" Ethan scoffed. "Mom sacrificed for us. You paid the bills, sure, but she raised us." My hands trembled. I wasn't just losing my wife, I was losing my children. And they were proud of it. Victor stepped closer. Too close. "It would be wise not to fight, Jonathan. Your kids are already prepared to testify on Claire's behalf. Don't drag this out." I walked toward the door. Madison's voice followed me. "Dad, don't make us choose sides, because we already did." I didn't sleep for 3 days. Not because I was broken, but because I was thinking. Planning. The thing Victor didn't know, the thing Claire forgot after living in comfort for decades, was that I wasn't some fragile retiree. I spent 40 years handling million-dollar logistics, contracts, negotiations, audits. I knew the system better than any lawyer she could sleep with, and I knew things she didn't. Claire had committed tax fraud on a property she inherited. Victor had a history of professional misconduct the bar would love to revisit. My children, both of them, had taken loans from me I had never documented, until now. And the biggest card in my hand? The company pension wasn't marital property. My assets were structured in a trust, and Claire didn't know. For the first time since the party, I smiled. Not a happy smile. A dangerous one. A patient one. The kind of man makes when he realizes the people who betrayed him have no idea what storm is coming. This wouldn't be loud revenge. It would be silent, strategic, and devastating. 3 weeks later, we met for the mediation hearing. Claire looked smug. Victor looked victorious. My children looked morally superior. I looked calm. The mediator asked to begin property division. Claire leaned forward. We're requesting 50% of Jonathan's pension, 50% of all investments, and the house. Victor added confidently, we believe this is fair given the emotional damage caused.
The mediator turned to me. I slid a folder across the table. My voice was steady. Claire is entitled to none of those. Victor scoffed. Jonathan, please. I raised a hand. My pension is locked under ERISA, not marital property. Claire blinked. What? No, that's not. And, I continued, all investment accounts are under the Hale Family Trust, established before our marriage. Also, not marital property. Victor shot up. That's impossible. Claire would have known. I smiled. You mean she didn't tell you? Claire's face turned white. Madison whispered, Mom, what's going on? Victor gritted his teeth. The house, then. Claire's keeping it. I opened another folder. The house was paid for by my parents' inheritance, legally classified as separate property. Claire never contributed financially. I have receipts for all renovations, all maintenance, all payments. And Claire listed herself as owner for tax write-offs. Fraudulent owner. Should I continue? Claire gasped. No, Jonathan, please. Victor grabbed her arm. Stop panicking. He's bluffing. I looked him dead in the eye. Then by all means, proceed to trial. The mediator blinked. So, what is Claire entitled to? I leaned back. Nothing for me, only what the law mandates for marital assets. Ethan and Madison exchanged panicked looks. Claire whispered, Jonathan, please, we can work something out. But she wasn't done paying. Not by a long shot. Claire didn't speak to me as we left the mediation room. She didn't have to. Her trembling hands, her wide eyes, the way she grabbed Victor's sleeve like a drowning woman, it all told the story for her. For the first time, she understood something she never believed possible. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't broken. And I wasn't done. Victor, however, still wore that arrogant half-grin. He believed he could outmaneuver me. He thought this was simply a complication, not a catastrophe. He hadn't realized he wasn't in control. Not anymore. 3 hours later, I received a text from Ethan. We need to talk, now. Come to Madison's house. Madison texted 2 minutes later. Dad, we don't understand what happened in that room. You blindsided Mom. Blindsided her? She served me divorce papers at my retirement party. But sure, I blindsided her. Still, I drove to Madison's house. I needed to hear what angle they were working. When I walked in, they were waiting in the living room like disappointed principals ready to scold a child. Ethan stepped forward. Dad, you're being unfair. Madison nodded sharply. You humiliated Mom. She was crying in the car. I stared at them both. Did she tell you she committed tax fraud on the lake house she inherited? Silence. Confusion. Then disbelief. Mom would never, Madison began. I cut her off. I have the filings and the proof she listed herself as sole owner on a property she didn't legally own. They stiffened. But don't worry, I said coldly. I won't report it, unless Victor pushes this to trial. Ethan swallowed hard. Dad, this is extreme. So is serving divorce papers in front of 200 people. I replied. They exchanged a look, silent, guilty, but too proud to admit it. Finally, Madison muttered, "You're being vindictive." "No," I said quietly, "I'm being strategic." Ethan stepped closer, voice trembling with frustration. "Dad, Mom needs support. Victor says, you're letting Victor think for you." I snapped. "And both of you. And he's manipulating every one of you while planning to drain Claire dry." Madison crossed her arms. "Victor loves her." I laughed once, humorless. "Ask yourself something. Why did he wait until my retirement to push for marriage? Why does he want half of everything? Why is he encouraging a messy divorce instead of a clean one?" They didn't answer, because the answer was obvious, but they desperately didn't want to see it. Ethan shook his head. "Dad, we're just trying to do what's right." I met his eyes. "You chose her the night you clapped." His face fell. Madison whispered, voice breaking for the first time, "We didn't mean to hurt you." I said, "Intent doesn't erase the wound, and actions have consequences." I turned and walked out as Madison called my name. The door closed behind me, and something inside me finally settled. A quiet decision, a firm one, a necessary one. My children had made their choice. I would live with mine. Victor thought the divorce was the battlefield. He didn't realize the real war had already begun, and I wasn't fighting on Claire's emotional terms. I fought on paper, on records, on money. The next morning, I executed the following moves. 1. Froze all joint lines of credit. Claire's spending stopped instantly. 2. Notified my bank that Claire was no longer authorized on any account. Her cards declined everywhere. 3. Filed an emergency hearing request to prevent sale or transfer of marital property. She couldn't hide money. Victor panicked. He called me personally. "Jonathan, you're escalating unnecessarily." "No," I replied. "I'm protecting my assets from someone committing financial misconduct." He inhaled sharply. "You wouldn't dare accuse Claire." I hung up before he finished. I wasn't giving him space to bluff. 2 days later, Claire asked to meet with no Victor present. That said everything. She showed up at the cafe first. No makeup, dark circles under her eyes, hands twisting nervously. She looked like a woman who had finally realized she'd jumped off a cliff without checking if there was ground below. "Jonathan, can we please talk calmly?" she whispered. I sat down. She took a shaky breath. "I made a mistake, serving you like that, doing it publicly. It got out of hand." Her voice sounded small, regretful, almost human. But I'd learned my lesson. "Claire," I said calmly, "you didn't make a mistake. You made 100, and you celebrated every one of them." She flinched. "Jonathan, I was angry, lonely. You were never home. The kids needed—" "Stop," I said firmly. "Don't rewrite history. We both know the truth. You cheated, you planned with Victor, and you weaponized our children." She flinched. "Jonathan, I don't want to lose everything." Ah, there it was. Not remorse, fear. "Then you shouldn't have declared war on the person who held the map." She covered her face with her hands. "Victor said you were bluffing." "And now you know better." She looked up desperately. "What do you want?" I leaned forward. "What I want is irrelevant. The question is, what are you willing to lose?" Her lip trembled. "I don't want to lose the house." "That's not your decision anymore." A tear slid down her cheek. "Can we talk about forgiveness?" I shook my head. Forgiveness is earned, not begged for when consequences arrive. Claire folded. Completely. The strongest woman I ever knew broke down in front of me like a child, and I felt nothing. Not hate, not satisfaction, just closure. She had chosen her path. Now she would walk it. My lawyer, who had known me for 25 years, called me one night around 9 p.m. "Jonathan, I found something." "What is it?" He paused. "You're going to want to sit down." I sat at my dining table, my real home, my sanctuary, and waited. He exhaled. "Victor Stanton isn't Victor Stanton." Silence. He changed his name 12 years ago after he was disbarred in New York for financial exploitation of a client he was romantically involved with. A cold electric jolt shot down my spine. So Claire wasn't the first? No, he has a pattern. He targets wealthy or financially stable older women, gets involved, convinces them to divorce, and drains them. And the kids? Part of the manipulation, my lawyer said. He isolates the target from their support system. I felt sick. Not because of Claire, but because Ethan and Madison were being used like pawns. My lawyer continued.
He's planning to marry Claire to get access to whatever you don't fight for. My jaw clenched. And if I hadn't fought, you would have lost everything. Claire, too. Victor would have left once the money dried up. I closed my eyes. Rage, grief, pity, they all collided violently inside me. "You have a decision to make," my lawyer said quietly. "Do you want to expose him now, or after he drains her?" I opened my eyes. "Neither," I said. "What do you mean?" "I'm going to destroy him without touching him." My lawyer hesitated. "And how do you plan to do that?" I leaned back, mind already working. By letting him destroy himself. The next morning, I stopped all counteractions in the divorce process. No more freezes, no more filings, no more pressure. Victor interpreted it as surrender. Claire interpreted it as remorse. My children interpreted it as weakness. Perfect. Within days, Victor convinced Claire to push forward with demands again. He texted me himself. "We can settle this amicably. Just sign the division agreement. Claire deserves the house plus 50%. Move on with dignity." I smiled at the message. The house he was referring to? The one Claire wasn't legally entitled to? The one she had committed tax fraud on? I forwarded the text to my lawyer. I wrote, "Proceed." Proceed with what? With filing a request for a forensic audit, a tax compliance investigation, a review of Claire's fraudulent filings, and a formal inquiry into Victor's involvement in financial manipulation. Victor thought he could pressure me into signing. Instead, he walked directly into a legal wood chipper. And I didn't even have to push. 3 days later, Claire showed up at my door, face pale, hands shaking, voice cracking. "Jonathan, what did you do?" "I protected myself," I said simply. She swallowed. "They're investigating Victor." "Yes." "And me?" "Yes." Tears spilled. "I didn't know. I didn't know he had a past. I didn't know he was a predator," I finished. She sobbed harder. "I thought he loved me." "You thought he was your reward for leaving me," I said quietly. "You didn't realize he was your next mark." She sank onto the porch step, covering her face. "My God, what have I done?" "You destroyed our family, but you still have a chance to walk away with something." She looked up, eyes desperate. "How?" "Leave him." Claire's jaw dropped. I can't. He'll be furious."
He's only staying because he thinks you'll get half of what I earned." She stared at me, horror dawning. "So what do I do?" I looked her dead in the eye. "You tell the truth. About everything." Her breath caught. "You want me to confess?" "Yes, because it's the only thing that will save you." "And if I don't?" I shrugged. "Then Victor will take everything you have, and the investigation will take the rest." She trembled. Would you help me if I walk away from him?" I was silent for a long moment. Then, "No." Her face collapsed. "You made your choice, Claire. This is your mess, not mine." She broke down on my porch, but there was no satisfaction in it, just inevitability. That evening, I received a frantic call from Madison. Dad, you need to come to Mom's house now. Victor is screaming at her. He found out about the investigation." I drove over. I didn't go inside. I listened from the doorway. Victor was yelling, vicious, cruel, nothing like the charming man that Claire had fallen for. "You stupid woman, you told him everything, didn't you? You pathetic, aging idiot. How could you ruin this for us? You were supposed to get half." Claire sobbed. Madison shouted back. Ethan cursed at Victor. Victor snapped, "You kids are worthless. I never needed you. I just needed your mother's settlement." That was the moment everything shattered. Ethan shouted, voice cracking, "Get out before I drag you out myself." Victor stormed past me, glaring. "This isn't over, Jonathan." I met his glare without blinking. "Yes," I said quietly, "it is." He left. Forever. Inside, I heard Claire collapse onto the floor, crying. Madison sobbing with her. Ethan silent. My three biggest betrayers finally understood the cost of their betrayal. Victor wasn't their ally. He was their punishment, and they had invited him in. The next morning, Claire formally withdrew all demands. She agreed to no alimony, no claim to the house, no claim to any trust assets, a clean, uncontested divorce. My children texted me separately. Both messages said almost the same thing. "Dad, we're sorry. We were wrong. Please let us make this right." For the first time in months, I felt the weight of anger and betrayal loosen, just a fraction. But forgiveness? That was still a distant mountain. They could climb toward it, if they chose to.
For 2 days, after Marcus slammed his door in my face, the house stayed quiet. Too quiet. Adeline didn't call. The kids didn't call. Not even Mia, my youngest, who always pretended to be the peacekeeper of the family. I let them sit in that silence. Actions, after all, speak louder than all the speeches they gave at my retirement party. By Wednesday afternoon, I was in my condo reviewing the final draft of my deposition with my lawyer, Bev. Outside, the weather rumbled with heavy gray clouds, the kind of sky that warned you that life was about to change. Bev closed the folder and said, "They're cornered, but they're still hoping you'll blink." "I don't blink anymore," I said. "You used to," she replied softly. "I know. That's why they did what they did." Bev tapped the table. "Tomorrow is arbitration. This is where everything breaks." I nodded. It's time. The conference building they rented looked too expensive for their broke reality. It was almost funny. They showed up looking like a family dressed for a funeral. Mine, probably. Too bad they didn't realize it was theirs. Adeline refused to look at me at first. Marcus sat stiff, jaw clenched so tight it could have cracked a tooth. Mia kept wringing her hands. Julian was scrolling on his phone, pretending not to care. But the second the company owner, Mr. Hadley, walked in with his lawyers, the tension snapped. He looked right at me and said, "Mr. Carter, are you ready to present your evidence?" Adeline's head jerked. Marcus blinked.
Julian finally put the phone down. The blood left their faces. They didn't know I had already been working with the company for weeks. They didn't know Mr. Hadley asked me for my side because the anonymous email Marcus sent, accusing me of financial negligence, tripped every fraud alert system the company had. They didn't know the company's audit team found zero wrongdoing on my end. And they especially didn't know they traced all the fraudulent signatures and falsified documents straight back to Marcus and Julian. The room went silent as the big screen lit up with the evidence. Emails, screenshots, transaction logs, signatures, timestamps. The kind of paper trail you can't talk your way out of. Julian choked out, "Dad, what is this?" Marcus whispered, "Mom, did you know?" Adeline swallowed hard. "Marcus, Julian, tell me this is a mistake." But Mr. Hadley cut her off. "Your sons tried to sabotage their father's pension to create financial strain for their divorce case. They manipulated company systems, impersonated your husband, and attempted to redirect funds." Adeline's hand flew to her mouth. She shook her head, tears forming. But it was too late. Marcus stood abruptly. "Mom, say something. You said it would work. You said Dad wouldn't—" Adeline screamed, "Stop talking!" But Marcus had already said too much. The entire room froze. Mr. Hadley stared at them with raised eyebrows. The company's legal counsel calmly added, "Mrs. Carter, were you aware of this plan?" She stuttered, "No, I mean, not exactly. I—" Julian muttered, "We only did what Mom told us." And with that, it was over. The three people who publicly humiliated me had now publicly destroyed themselves. By noon, the decisions were final. Marcus and Julian, criminal charges, fraud, forgery, financial tampering, corporate sabotage. They were arrested the same day. Handcuffs, police, cameras, the works. And yes, the local paper covered it. Front page. Adeline, divorce settlement reversal. The judge reviewed the case with the new evidence. She lost the house, the alimony, 70% of her claim, her attempt to seize parts of my pension, her right to my medical benefits. Everything she weaponized against me collapsed like a rotten roof under its own weight. "Mrs. Carter," the judge said sternly, "you attempted to destroy the financial stability of the very man funding your lifestyle. You manipulated your children into committing felonies. You have forfeited your moral and legal standing." Adeline fainted in court. The house, the one she thought would be hers forever, I sold it. Not out of pettiness, out of closure. But I made sure the timing was beautiful. The new owners moved in the same week she had to vacate. The morning she stood outside with her suitcases, watching strangers carry furniture into what used to be her castle, she looked like a ghost. She mouthed across the driveway, "Please, Robert, don't do this." I looked at her, the woman who handed me divorce papers at my own retirement party, and said, "You already did." Then I turned and walked away. Marcus and Julian took plea deals. Community service, restitution, probation, mandatory counseling. Adeline moved into a small rental 2 towns over. She sends long, emotional emails. I don't reply. Mia visits sometimes, not for reconciliation, but for accountability. She was the only one who tried to apologize early. And me? I teach occasionally. Consult for companies. Travel without asking permission. Sleep peacefully. One evening I received a message. "Dad, we're sorry. Can we talk?" Marcus. I stared at it. Closed the phone. and let silence answer for me. The same silence they gave me when they clapped while tearing my life apart. Some doors once closed should stay closed. Because sometimes revenge isn't destruction, it's delivery. The return to sender of consequences they wrote themselves.